Antiheroes, a central character in a story, movie, or genre who lacks conventional heroic attributes, such as courage, honesty, humility, morality, and empathy. The conventional antihero has grown into the overwhelming standard of heroic storytelling, not only for people like Deadpool and Punisher, who have always been conventionally an antihero, but more often we are starting to see these attributes leak into modern hero tales, whether it be Batman or Superman in recent adaptations, or the very popular trend of turning a villain into an antihero. We start to blur the lines between good and evil. We create a gray area that most seem comfortable with now. But is that ultimately a problem? Do we need clear barriers between hero and villain? Or are these barriers and archetypes just holding us back as storytellers? Have we just outgrown the traditional hero's journey? And have anti-heroes gone too far?
He's climbing, he's waiting. He's got no time for 40 kids.
This is Buck from Buck and the Preacher. He is one of the first anti-heroes in modern media. Buck is committed to helping a group of formerly enslaved black people travel to the West to secure their freedom in America that is a couple of years removed from the Civil War. But although his goals and stories seem noble and righteous, his actions are a little bit more questionable. He is not afraid to use violence to achieve his goals when handy, or rob, lie, and cheat in any fashion when beneficial for his well-being. Buck was not the prototypical hero most audiences were used to. His ultimate goal being to help others is important to his character and story, but he is also motivated by self-preservation and personal gratification. He is not selfless in these acts in totality because he's helping these people for the money he can receive later on. But as the story progresses, Buck starts to take things more personally. He sees how violent and brutal these bounty hunters are being when trying to catch and kill any freed men. He starts to fight back willingly, not only for the freed men, but for himself as a black man. This would paint Buck as a defiant character who strikes back at authority, which again is something you don't see in a traditional hero. I only told you that tale about Buck to recognize where the modern notion of an anti-hero started. It was in these Western films brought about in the 1960s and 70s when the average American citizen struck out from tradition, whether it be in the support of the civil rights movement, or the natural distrust of the government after World War II, or the skepticism around the new war in Vietnam. It was no longer a good versus evil justification to the populace, and they were also recognizing their own faults in the past decades, how we are not the perfect ideal paragon of hope and justice we all think we are. We could be something much darker. And the anti-hero brought about a mirror for the audience. We can see that this character isn't perfect, just like us. They have their selfish desires and moral ambiguity, but they try to do good in their own way, even if it's not traditional. And for a long while, that's really what an anti-hero was. Someone who just wasn't the clear hero, but at the end of the day, became a hero. But now what if we start to follow a character who has no redeeming values? They're the monsters we can sometimes be, but 24/7, non-stop, evil. There is no gray area for this character. Are they still a hero? Tony Soprano is the boss of the DeMeo crime family, the New Jersey family of the Italian mob. Now, Tony has very few, if any, redeeming qualities. So let me just list off some of his less redeeming qualities before I talk about the semi-good. Drug user, drug pusher, thief, fraudster, cheater, extortionist, smuggler, arsonist, domestic abuser, money launderer, stalker, psychological abuser. Did I mention he also cheats on his wife regularly? Sexual assaulter, briber, torturer, gambler, racketeer. Oh, and what's the last one? Murder. Lots and lots of murder. Even tried to kill his own mother on occasion. Now, if you've never seen The Sopranos, you are probably wondering, why is this guy the guy? Why are we following his story? There is nothing redeeming here. Or is there? You see, Tony isn't the average mobster. He has a softer side. Between the murder and drug trafficking, he loves to spend valuable time with the ducks that choose to live in his pool. It was a very fun time for him. He feeds them, he plays with them, he learns more about their breed so he knows what to feed them. He loves these ducks. But one day, these ducks migrate south for the winter, and Tony fucking dies. Okay, actually he had a panic attack, and later on, in therapy, yes, a mobster goes to therapy, he discovers those ducks represented his family. And when they left, it felt like his family had died and he was alone. And to him, he thinks he's doing everything he's doing right now for his family, so they have somewhere to live, so he has a legacy. And later on, we find that's not really true, but just stay with me for a little bit, okay? But this is what leads him to have these overwhelming feelings of anxiety and subsequent blackouts. They take a different approach to the character. Although this man is pure evil through and through, What's to say we can't understand evil? And not only understand it, but be entertained by it. And that is mostly why The Sopranos was a hit. It broke free yet again from a traditional anti-hero and created something totally new that audiences had rarely seen. They didn't hold punches with how unredeemable he can be, but they want you to understand how and why he is this way. Tony Soprano is the birth of the modern anti-hero. No longer are anti-heroes circumstantial heroes with their own code. They are now unredeemable, unflinching villains that don't care who they hurt to achieve their own selfish goals. From the seeds that Tony Soprano planted in the modern audience sprouted a whole crop of new-fledged anti-heroes, such as Walter White, Billy Butcher, Joe Goldberg, and many more characters in television and film. These anti-heroes follow the same story beats, like being semi-justified and almost noble to a point, but at the end of the day, they'll always choose to be that narcissistic, vindictive, aggressive person. They barely have any redeeming qualities, so that brings you back to the question of why are we watching this? It can't just be to understand people that are evil. We must also have some sense of relatability to these characters. I hope not all the attributes are relatable, because that would be kind of crazy, but having a tendency of anger at points, or narcissism, or having vengeful thoughts, these are all things that people would try to keep at bay and not let these nasty attributes of themselves take over. And I think these characters allow some kind of release, as you can see your worst traits fully unleashed and catered to, because it's a fictional story that will always support its main character. No matter how violent, weird, or selfish the situation is, the main character usually comes out on top. Probably with some scars, but nonetheless, they run this show. But this is not where the anti-hero evolution stops. With the rise of the MCU and just shared universes as a whole, we've been seeing the introduction of the villain turned hero, the Lokis, the Jokers, the Venoms. All characters known for their villainous intent and trademark hate for their adversaries were quickly turned into sympathetic and misunderstood characters with a thoughtful arc. Sometimes this can be beneficial from a story standpoint, and sometimes not so much. But what I'm mostly focused on is the somewhat erasure of the true villain, and in some points, now the true hero. When we start to merge the Harley Quinns with Batmans, making them both grayish characters with twisted morals, where is the true dichotomy? Where is the give and pull? Is it supposed to be two people or groups that have differing opinions on topic or situation fighting with no moral high ground? Is this an intriguing, engaging, and thought-provoking way to tell a story? Well, yeah, I'm making a whole video about that topic right now, but that doesn't mean we should abandon the typical and traditional hero, especially in the time we're in right now. All these connected universes thrive off this new version of an anti-hero and rarely harken back to traditional heroes, as they're not seen as interesting and thought-provoking. But right now, I think that's what we need most. A person who is unflinching in their morality and courage. A purely selfless person who doesn't help people for anything but to keep peace in the world. Something that I'm pretty sure James Gunn will handle beautifully in Superman, as he kind of contributed to the edgier and grayer hero for the past decade. He understands what a true Superman should and could be. A man tomorrow, someone people aspire to be. Not only a man of steel, but a person who is the hope of humanity, the standard you would hope to live up to morally and idealistically. We don't have to see ourselves in this type of character, we want to be this type of character, and that's something an anti-hero just can't scratch the itch of. Actually, maybe. Everyone on Twitter thinks there's some kind of misunderstood badass that they can ratio because they have aura or something, I don't know. But the overall notion that anti-heroes have grown out of control is semi-true. Although the character type has grown and evolved in more modern takes, it's still supposed to be something that is a little taboo and not the overwhelming standard, because why would you want to be surrounded by a gray landscape? No true pillars of evil or good. Sounds a little boring to me, at least. I feel there's always a time and place for anti-heroes, but if you want to build something like a universe or have a larger moral conflict, a true good and evil needs to be present in that story. And writing from a gray point of view for both sides is kind of working backwards in a sense. These characters can come at odds, but if they ultimately know that both have righteous goals and are not doing these actions for self-preservation or gratification, what story are you really trying to tell? Well, actually, that's pretty damn good. But what do you think? Have anti-heroes gone too far? Have they been misused in recent media to justify following villains? Are we due for the return of the classic hero in a grand scale way? Tell me and everyone else in the comments. Leave a like if you enjoyed, or dislike if you didn't. Either way, I hope you took something away from this video, whether it's positive or negative. Subscribe if you enjoyed, and hopefully I'll see you on the next one. Peace.